schooler. With the second pick of the 2024 MLB Draft, the Cincinnati Reds select Chase Burns, a right-handed pitcher from Wake Forest. The Colorado Rockies have the next pick.
Well, this is interesting. Obviously, Designer was perceived by many to be the number one. Visually, this guy matches up with anybody, including Skeens, given his size, his fastball velocity, and his ability to spin the baseball.
Yeah, big righty.
Well, Bryce,
I'm excited. I really am. I think that you mentioned it. I think it's a shift in how we're viewing pitchers now. I think that they think Chase Burns can be an impactful pitcher for the Reds quickly, and I think they're correct. He's got wipeout stuff. I mean, just turn on the video for 2 seconds and you can see how good he is. It's a 98 to 100 with the fastball. It's a legit 80 grade pitch. Like you don't do that normally. He throws it 60 times a game, whatever, 40, 50, 60 times a game, and it's legitimately a dominant pitch. Sliders plus. He struck out 191 guys in 100 innings with 30 walks. It's good command. He has all the things that you want from a pitcher this high in the draft. He's athletic as hell, and he's been healthy. So I mean, like he ticks all those boxes that you're looking for. I think that it's a new philosophy that we saw some success with Skeens, and I think he's in that tier of high level arm that can be there quickly. And I think that that's really appealing for the Reds.
I want to openly say that I don't have enough intel or I don't spend enough time doing this to have a really strong opinion. And I really don't have one here. I know people want us to probably get upset or fired up about this. I do think that there is a definite concern that they had of Condon. If everyone was so high on Condon and they decided to pass on him, without question, they had multiple people within the organization that they trusted that were very skeptical. And my guess is they were skeptical because of the wood bat thing that we had talked about briefly at the beginning of the show. He's not had success with a wood bat now, albeit the sample size is absurdly small. It's absurdly small. I don't think it's something that really you could use in an argument and have a hand up in it, but it's at least something to be semi-concerned about. And then the other thing, I guess, that I would say is, I don't know if there's other things that were a factor into this. I don't know how much Charlie was asking for. And maybe they thought the risk-reward ratio on how much Condon was asking for wasn't worth it either, because they wanted to make sure they could go after something later in the draft that they were going to overslot and get someone that they're really, really excited about. So it's hard to know. It's hard to know. And I know people are going to be very pissed off because Condon was this guy that looks like Superman hitting home runs every other day for the Georgia Bulldogs. But I'll just openly say, you got a guy that I said at the beginning of the show, and I still think it. He's the guy that can get here the fastest and make an impact immediately. And I know they're not going to do this, but they could drop him in the bullpen right now for the Cincinnati Reds, and he's a guy that we're going to be asking to come out of the bullpen. So it's hard to complain about that. I mean, that's all I got.
Shout out to Joe Doyle. I think he was the only one who had the Reds taking Burns and the mock drafts out there. So shout out to him. He nailed it. I mean, I'd be lying if I wasn't a little initially just disappointed, and not necessarily because I think the Reds did something wrong here. Just you wanted the bat. It felt like a perfect time to get the bat. But I've always been, take the best available. I think you always have to do that. I think it's pretty clear the Reds, believe in Chase Burns more than they believed in Condon. Just because of the way their entire organization's set up right now. So, I mean, from that perspective, you have to feel good about Burns, that they feel that good about him, that they would pass on a guy that I think before the college playoffs started, everyone thought kind of pretty much a surefire number one, right, Bryce? And so, yeah, we'll see. Wake Forest, they're running straight through the Reds organization right now. So, It'll be interesting to see where Chase Burns starts and how quickly. But I mean, look, if he's on the Paul Skeens trajectory, I mean, you legitimately could see him in a Cincinnati Reds uniform starting games by May or June of 2025.
Back-to-back years, they took a Wake Forest pitcher.
That's wild.
One.
Yeah.
So.
No, like I said, I'm excited. I think people will fall in love with who Chase Burns is. He's fierce competitor. He plays.
There it is.
He's super athletic on the mound. He loves the game. I think people are going to really like who he is, and I think obviously are going to like what he can bring to the mound. So, well done on my end. I think they made a really good pick.
Does Charlie Condon going to the Rockies make you feel better? Because it feels like they screw everything up.
Wow, I mean,
although his numbers are going to look great.
Exactly. That is a similar. I'll tell you right now, if I was in the Reds front office, the last thing I want to see is that Charlie Condon is heading to Colorado, because if nothing else, maybe it inflates his numbers to where if it doesn't work out in your favor, you don't want that guy putting up video game numbers. But like I said, anyone with a relatively even head with this whole situation knows it's impossible to know. But I really wanted Bazana. I got my hopes up. I thought there was a chance. Kudos to the Guardians for not letting kind of some high school kid to ruin an opportunity to pick the best player in the draft. And who knows? Maybe it all works out. That's the weird thing about this that I want to say, and I'm gonna end it on my end, is this. There's a lot of times when you go back and you look at MLB classes and NFL classes and NBA classes, there are teams that don't get the pick that people fall to, and it was a blessing that they didn't have the pick, because if they would have had it, they would have selected them. A la, if Travis Bazana doesn't become a major league player, we think that he will be, but if he doesn't become a great player, the Reds would have taken him if they had the opportunity, but instead, now they have Burns. Maybe Burns ends up being a multi-year Cy Young Award winner that you never would have taken if you didn't get the opportunity to miss out on Bazana. So we'll see what happens, but it's I'm excited from the standpoint that I know unless injury happens, I know for a fact we just drafted a major league player, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to read the quote from Joe Katuska, and then we'll pass it off to Bryce to kind of give us a full rundown on Chase Burns, and then we'll wrap it up unless you guys have anything else. So Joe Katuska, this is the Reds scouting director, said, Chase has the ability to be a top-of-the-rotation starting pitcher at the major league level and to do it quickly. It's a profile that we always start with in the draft, and Chase checks all the box. We love the quality and depth of his pitch mix and his competitiveness. He's made great strides since we saw him pitch 4 years ago and see him continuing on that same trajectory. So shout out to Charlie Goldsmith for passing that along. And then Bryce, kind of tell us, what are Reds fans getting with Chase Burns?
Yeah, I think you're getting a dog and somebody that loves to compete, who's got just wipeout stuff from start to finish every start. So he's 98 to 100 with a fastball, really good breaking ball, really good feel for a changeup as well. He's complete. He's a lot more complete than I think people give him credit for. Maybe it's due to the herky-jerky windup. Maybe it's due to whatever. But I think he's the caliber of pitcher that you take top 5 in the draft. He's the guy that you have full faith in, and then you compare that with Green, Lodolo, Abbott, Louder, and now your pitching staff is feeling really, really good in the next year or so. So I think that it's easy to say, oh, we should have taken a hitter, but the old adage, and I still believe it, is to draft your pitching and acquire your hitting. I think it's a lot easier to develop guys, especially if you know all this data and things like that, because hitters are so hard to predict sometimes. We drafted Nick Senzel second overall, and he wasn't exactly who you thought he was going to be. So there's always questions. There's always injury concerns, no matter whenever you take a pitcher. But I do think they took the best available player at this very moment. I do think Chase Burns is going to be a really good big leaguer.